After 42 years at Meridian Technologies, I thought I knew everything about the company. Every system, every process, every face in every department. But standing in the grand ballroom of the Westbrook Hotel, watching my son Marcus announce he'd borrowed my pension, I realized I'd missed something crucial: the capacity of family to betray you. Dads always believed in investing in family, Marcus continued, champagne glass raised. So when this opportunity came up, we knew he'd want to support it. The room of 200 employees fell silent. Even the waiters stopped circulating, sensing the tension crackling through the air. My wife Susan squeezed my hand under the table, her fingers trembling slightly. I maintained my smile, decades of corporate training keeping my expression neutral as I watched my retirement implode in real time. Behind Marcus, my daughter-in-law, Jennifer beamed with practiced charm, their perfect family portrait completed by my teenage grandchildren looking bored with their phones. But my attention was fixed on James Morrison, Meridian CEO, who sat at the head table, watching the scene unfold with an expression I'd never seen in 30 years of working with him. A toast. Marcus raised his glass higher, to family investment and new beginnings. The room responded with awkward, scattered applause. I caught whispers from nearby tables. Did he say he took his father's pension? Can they even do that? Poor Tom, on his retirement day. 4 hours earlier, I'd been in my office, clearing out 42 years of memories. Photos of system launches, team celebrations, the day we went public. My retirement package was substantial. $1.8 million in pension funds, plus stock options I'd carefully accumulated since the IPO. Marcus had stopped by as I was packing, full of unusual questions about the pension disbursement timeline. I should have recognized the signs. But even after 3 failed business ventures and countless temporary loans, I still trusted my son. "Just one more thing, Dad," he'd said, hovering in the doorway. "You'll back me up at the party, right? When I make the announcement?" What announcement? He'd smiled that confident smile that always preceded disaster. "You'll see. It's brilliant. Trust me. Trust me." The words that had cost me $40,000 when he tried to start a craft brewery. Another $75,000 for his revolutionary app that never launched. But this was different. This was my retirement. Carefully planned, meticulously saved, absolutely secured. Or so I thought. Now watching him stand at the podium in his expensive suit, probably bought with my money, I did the mental math. My pension was supposed to be deposited tomorrow. The papers were already signed, the transfer scheduled. I pulled out my phone under the table, opened my banking app. The notification made my stomach drop. Transfer complete. $1,800,000 to account ending in 4872. An account I didn't recognize. "Marcus," I said quietly, but my voice carried in the silent room. "What exactly did you do?" He turned that brilliant smile my way. "Dad, you're always saying family comes first. Jennifer and I found this amazing investment opportunity. Cryptocurrency mining operation. Guaranteed returns. We just needed some startup capital." "Some startup capital," I repeated. "My entire pension." "It's completely safe," Jennifer chimed in. "Marcus's friend Kyle runs the whole operation. He's a genius with crypto." Kyle. The same Kyle who'd convinced Marcus to invest in a marijuana dispensary that never opened. The same Kyle who'd disappeared with investor money twice before. I looked at Susan, saw the horror dawning on her face as she realized our comfortable retirement had just evaporated. We planned to travel, to finally see Europe, to spend winters in Florida. All gone. transferred to some crypto wallet, probably already moving offshore. That's when I noticed James Morrison standing up, straightening his tie with deliberate calm. "Actually," he said, his voice cutting through the tension, "before we continue this fascinating discussion about unauthorized pension transfers, I think it's time we clarify exactly who owns what at Meridian Technologies." Marcus's smile faltered slightly. "Mr. Morrison, this is a family matter." "Oh, I disagree." James picked up his own phone. "You see, Tom here isn't just our retiring systems director. Would you like to tell them, Tom, or should I?" I nodded slowly, understanding flooding through me. This was why James had insisted on handling my retirement package personally. Why he'd scheduled the transfer for the day after the party, not before. "Tell us what?" Marcus demanded, his confidence cracking. I stood up, feeling 42 years of corporate backbone straighten my spine. "Tell you about the silent partnership agreement I signed in 1995, I said quietly. "The one that makes me the second largest shareholder in Meridian Technologies." The room erupted in whispers. Marcus's champagne glass trembled visibly. "Dad, what are you talking about?" James smiled, but it wasn't a kind expression. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion somewhere more private. The corporate security office, for example. I believe they'd be very interested in hearing about unauthorized access to pension accounts." As hotel security appeared at the ballroom doors, I saw Marcus's face drain of color. He planned this perfectly. The public announcement, the family pressure, the fait accompli of money already transferred. What he hadn't planned on was me having a backup plan. Or rather, having spent 42 years building something he didn't know about. Sometimes the quiet ones have the loudest secrets. The corporate security office at the Westbrook Hotel was all dark wood and leather chairs, designed to make people comfortable. No one looked comfortable now. Marcus sat with his head in his hands, Jennifer frantically texting someone, probably Kyle, who would conveniently stop answering any minute now. James Morrison stood by the window, while two Meridian security officers reviewed banking records on their tablets. The transfer was initiated at 3:42 p.m., Officer Collins reported, using Mr. Thomas Reynolds' login credentials. I watched Marcus flinch. "How did you get my password, son?" "Your notebook," he mumbled. "The one in your desk drawer. You keep all your passwords there." Of course. The notebook I deliberately filled with outdated credentials, a security measure I'd implemented after the craft brewery disaster, when I discovered Marcus borrowing money from my checking account. James turned from the window. "Show them, Tom." I opened my laptop, pulled up the real transfer records. The pension fund never left Meridian's secure accounts. What you accessed was a shadow system we used to track potential security breaches. Marcus's head snapped up. "What?" "It's a honeypot," Officer Collins explained. "Fake accounts we monitor for unauthorized access. When someone tries to transfer funds, it looks successful, but the money actually goes nowhere." Jennifer stopped texting. "So, the money isn't in Kyle's account?" "Kyle's not answering, is he?" I asked quietly. "Probably already changed his number, like he did after the dispensary scheme." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Marcus had not only attempted to steal my pension, he'd been caught in a security trap designed specifically to identify internal theft. "Here's what's going to happen," James said, his CEO voice in full effect. "First, you're going to tell us exactly how you planned this, including Kyle's real name and any other accomplices." "Dad," Marcus started, but I held up my hand. "No, not this time. No more Dad to fix things." James continued. Second, we're pressing charges. Attempting to steal a pension fund is a federal offense. The FBI has already been notified. Jennifer burst into tears. We can't go to jail. What about the children? You should have thought about them before committing fraud. Officer Collins replied without sympathy. My phone buzzed. A text from Susan. Do you want me to call Martha? Martha, our family lawyer. The one who'd handled the aftermath of Marcus's previous schemes. No, I typed back. Not this time. Marcus must have seen my response. Dad, please. We can work something out. Pay you back slowly. With what money? I asked. The brewery funds? The app investment? The dispensary capital? When exactly were you planning to pay back any of it? He had no answer. He never did. James sat down across from them. The FBI will want to know about those other schemes, too. How much would you say your father has loaned you over the years, Marcus? I don't know exactly. $457,000, I said quietly. I kept records of everything. Jennifer gasped. Marcus went pale. Plus today's attempted theft of $1.8 million in pension funds, James added, using stolen passwords to access corporate accounts. That's quite a pattern of behavior. A knock at the door interrupted us. Agent Sarah Davidson, FBI Financial Crimes, strode in with two colleagues. I knew her from corporate security seminars, another detail Marcus hadn't considered. Mr. Reynolds, she nodded to me. We have some questions about unauthorized access to pension accounts. Marcus stood up, desperation clear on his face. Dad, you can't let them do this. I'm your son. Yes, I agreed. You are. Which is why this stops now, before you try this with someone else's family. The children, Jennifer started again, will be better off seeing consequences than learning that crime pays. I finished. Susan and I will make sure they're taken care of. Agent Davidson opened her laptop. Let's start with Kyle Thompson's real identity. We have records of him operating similar schemes in 3 states. As Marcus and Jennifer began their interviews with the FBI, James pulled me aside. You know, he said quietly, most people would have just stopped the transfer and kept it private. Family shame and all that. I watched my son, slumped in his chair as he detailed years of financial manipulation. Sometimes family needs public consequences. I enabled him for too long, thinking I was helping. Your shareholding announcement got their attention, though. James smiled slightly. Nice touch, letting them think you had hidden power. Who says I don't? I handed him a folder. Check page 3. He opened it, eyes widening. These stock options. You've been accumulating since the IPO. You really are one of our largest individual shareholders. Sometimes the quiet ones pay attention, I said. Speaking of which, that shadow security system caught 3 other employees trying to access pension accounts this month. James raised an eyebrow. Really? Do tell. As we discussed internal security protocols, I watched Agent Davidson lead Marcus and Jennifer out in handcuffs. No more chances. No more enabling. Sometimes love means letting people face the consequences of their choices. My phone buzzed again. Susan sending a photo of our grandchildren safely at her sister's house. They're okay, she wrote. Are you? I thought about 42 years of building something real, something honest. About the difference between helping family and enabling destruction. Yes, I replied. For the first time in years, I really am. The next morning, my office was filled with executives, lawyers, and FBI agents. The story had broken in the local business press. Attempted pension theft at Meridian Technologies leads to arrests. Marcus and Jennifer's smiling photos from last year's charity gala feature prominently. We've traced the connection to 5 other pension fraud attempts across the state. Agent Davidson explained, spreading documents across my desk. Your son's friend Kyle, real name Kevin Bradbury, has been running this scheme for years. Target retirement parties, manipulate family connections, transfer funds to crypto wallets. And my son was going to help him do it again, I said quietly. Not just help, she corrected. Marcus was being groomed to take over the operation. We found plans for approaching 3 other retiring Meridian executives in the next month. James Morrison leaned against the window, watching a group of protesters outside. Signs reading, "Protect our pensions," and "Family fraud is still fraud," dotted the morning crowd. The press is having a field day, he said. Fortune just called for a comment. They're doing a piece on familial financial abuse. I nodded, thinking about years of temporary loans and emergency investments. Each time, I told myself I was helping family. Each time, I'd actually been funding my son's descent into fraud. My phone lit up with a text from the prison where Marcus was being held. Dad, please. The public defender says 15 years minimum. You can't let this happen. I showed it to Agent Davidson. She shook her head. With his prior schemes and the interstate nature of this operation, he's looking at more than that. Jennifer might get less if she cooperates fully. The grandchildren? I asked. Child Services is recommending placement with your wife's sister for now. Given your financial stability and clean record, you and your wife could petition for custody. Another text came through, this one from Susan. Marcus's wife's parents are threatening to sue us. Say we should have stopped him sooner. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. James cleared his throat. Tom, about your shareholding position. Yes. The board is meeting this afternoon. Given your stock options and long-term investment in the company, they'd like you to consider taking a seat. Help us strengthen internal controls against exactly this type of fraud. I looked around my office at the box of personal items I'd been packing just yesterday. I thought I was retiring. Maybe, James smiled, you could delay that a bit. We could use your expertise, especially now. Agent Davidson added, having someone with your background helping prevent pension fraud would send a strong message. Show other companies how to protect their employees. My phone buzzed again. A message from Kyle/Kevin's latest victim, a retiring teacher who'd lost $230,000 to the scheme last month. The FBI had given her my contact information. Thank you, she wrote. Your son's arrest helped them freeze our transfers in time. You saved our retirement. I thought about Marcus sitting in a cell, probably still believing I would rescue him. About Jennifer facing federal charges while her parents blamed everyone but her. About my grandchildren trying to understand why their parents were suddenly gone. The board meeting, I said to James. What time? 2 p.m. We're announcing a complete security overhaul. New protocols for pension protection, enhanced monitoring of all retirement accounts. I opened my laptop, pulled up the presentation I'd been working on since 4 a.m., add this to the agenda. It's a complete analysis of how Marcus accessed our systems, where the vulnerabilities were, and how to prevent it happening again. Agent Davidson looked over my shoulder. You did this all night? No, I corrected. I've been building this for years. Every time Marcus asked for money, every scheme he tried, I documented the pattern. I just didn't act on it soon enough. James reviewed the slides. This is comprehensive. The behavioral red flags, the financial patterns, the social engineering tactics. 42 years in systems taught me to track everything, I said, even when I didn't want to admit what the data showed. My office phone rang. The prison again. I let it go to voicemail. They'll keep trying, Agent Davidson warned. Family pressure is their strongest tool. Yes, I agreed, but family truth is stronger. I stood up, gathering the FBI files. I'll present this to the board on one condition. Name it, James said. We make it public. Share it with every company in our industry. Create a network to track these schemes across state lines. No more hiding fraud behind family loyalty. That could affect our stock price, James warned. Show vulnerability. It shows leadership, I corrected, and integrity. Two things my son never understood. Agent Davidson smiled. I'll have our cyber division coordinate with your team. Build something that helps other companies protect their employees. As they left my office, I looked at the family photo still on my wall. Marcus at his college graduation, before the scheme started. Jennifer at their wedding, before she joined his fraudulent ventures. The grandchildren at last Christmas, still innocent of their parents' choices. I took the photo down, placed it in my packing box. Time to focus on the family members who deserved protection. The grandchildren who needed to learn that integrity matters more than easy money. My phone buzzed one last time. Susan, Martha says we can file for emergency custody tomorrow. Ready? I thought about 42 years of building systems to protect others, while failing to protect my own family from my son's manipulations. Yes, I replied. It's time to build something better. 1 year later, I sat in a different conference room facing a different crowd. The National Conference on Pension Security had asked me to deliver the keynote address. Behind me, a screen displayed the results of what we built from the ashes of Marcus's betrayal. The Financial Family Fraud Prevention Network, now implemented at over 200 companies nationwide. In the past 12 months, I began. This network has prevented 43 attempted pension thefts, totaling more than $47 million in protected retirement funds. 38 of those attempts involved family members. The audience, CEOs, security officers, and financial regulators, scribbled notes. In the front row, James Morrison nodded encouragingly. Beside him, Agent Davidson smiled. But statistics don't tell the real story, I continued. The real story is about what happens when we choose truth over family loyalty, prevention over enabling, and accountability over silence. My phone buzzed silently in my pocket. Probably another call from Marcus's prison. He'd been sentenced to 18 years after the full scope of his involvement in Kyle/Kevin's operation came to light. Jennifer had turned state's evidence, receiving 5 years in exchange for exposing the entire network. The hardest part isn't building the security systems, I told the crowd. It's acknowledging that sometimes the greatest threats come from those we trust most. After the presentation, during a reception, people kept approaching with similar stories. A CFO whose daughter had attempted to redirect corporate funds. A retiring teacher who'd caught her nephew trying to access her pension. The pattern was always the same. Family pressure, financial manipulation, the assumption that blood ties would prevent consequences. James found me by the coffee station. The SEC is implementing your protocols nationwide, he said. Every public company will be required to have similar protections by next year. Good. I stirred my coffee, thinking about the latest letter from Marcus's lawyer. Another appeal, another claim that family loyalty should supersede criminal charges. Any word on the Thompson case? James nodded grimly. Kyle's operation had tentacles in 12 states. Your son's testimony helped crack it open. But But he still did what he did. Yes. James hesitated. Have you visited him? No. I'd made that decision early on. The therapist says it's better for him to focus on rehabilitation without expecting rescue. My phone buzzed again. Susan this time, with better news. A photo of our grandchildren at their school science fair. They lived with us now, the court having granted permanent custody 6 months ago. In the picture, they were smiling, holding blue ribbons, looking like kids again instead of collateral damage in their parents' schemes. They're healing, Agent Davidson said, appearing beside me. She'd seen the photo over my shoulder. That's what matters most. They ask about their parents sometimes, I admitted. It's hard to explain. You tell them the truth, she replied. That's more valuable than any inheritance Marcus would have stolen. The conference continued with technical sessions about security protocols and legal frameworks. But during my closing remarks, I focused on something different. We're not just protecting money, I told them. We're protecting families from their own worst impulses. Every pension we save is a family's future. Every fraud we prevent is a potential redemption. Afterwards, in my hotel room, I finally opened Marcus's latest letter. Dad, the prosecutors offered a deal. If you testify about Kyle's other operations, they'll reduce my sentence. Please, I'm your son. Don't let me spend 18 years in here. I set the letter aside and opened my laptop, pulling up the presentation I'd given earlier. The last slide showed a simple statistic. 94% of prevented pension fraud attempts came after family members reported suspicious activity. My phone rang. The prison again. This time, I answered. Hello, Marcus. Dad, his voice was desperate. Did you get my letter? About the deal? Yes. And? I thought about the grandchildren doing their homework at our kitchen table. About Susan finally sleeping through the night. About the families we'd helped protect through our new network. The prosecutors already have my testimony, I said quietly. I gave it last month. About Kyle. About the other operations. About everything. Silence. But they said it would help reduce my sentence. No, Marcus. They said my testimony would help them catch Kyle's other accomplices. Your sentence stands. Dad, please. Goodbye, Marcus. Get help while you're in there. Real help this time. I hung up, looking out the hotel window at the city lights. My phone buzzed, with a text from Susan. The kids want to know if you'll be home for breakfast tomorrow. Tommy has a math test he wants to show you. I smiled, thinking about second chances and better legacies. On my way, I replied. Tell them Grandpa's bringing donuts. Later that night, reviewing the conference notes, I added one final line to our company's security protocol. The strongest protection against family fraud is family truth. Sometimes the hardest investments aren't financial. They're emotional. The willingness to stand firm, to choose right over easy, to build something better from broken trust. My retirement hadn't gone as planned. Instead of golf courses and leisure, I'd built a national security network. Instead of travel with Marcus and Jennifer, I was raising their children. Instead of family dinners with my son, I was protecting other families from sons like him. But looking at the grandchildren's science fair photo on my desk, I knew I'd finally invested in the right future.